Hey, today I'll be talking about what I think that experts, both economists, academia, even people in the field, people in the AI industry, and Reddit in terms of like kind of just like the mainstream narrative, um, what I consider like the typical like Reddit opinion, which is like doomer and pessimistic about AI. There are, of course, lots of subreddits that are very optimistic and um, passionate about AI. We'll ignore that. We'll consider like the mainstream narrative um, on Reddit, which I think which a lot of like academics in like uh, I guess like it's not really that academics share that opinion, but I see a lot of similarities in the kinds of biases that these people on Reddit and academics both have. So that's why I'm kind of grouping them in together. Um, I'll be trying my best to dismantle a lot of the misconceptions and misappropriations. I talked a lot about this in my last video. My last video was more just overall the outlook of AI, and this was just a part of that because I ended up talking about a lot of evidence-based truth about AI, and just happened to corroborate evidence against a lot of these claims I'm going to bring up. But I do want to do a separate individual video, which is this on this topic. Um, so I don't have a script that I'm reading off of. Um, I have like 15, I have like 10 questions that just like to guide me through the video. So I'm not just talking without direct, because this is all off the top of my head. Like I'm not doing any kind of, I'm not editing anything. Yeah, I'm going to be trying to limit my use of terminology as much as possible. So I basically, by the way, I paused the video quickly to change the lighting. That's the only editing I did. Um, the only I'm gonna try to be as layman as possible with my terminology, not try to overload or like sound too technical or like far out of reach. My goal is to just basically explain this in a way that as many people can understand as possible. Um, yeah. So we can start with the general overview. Why are experts? Experts is a very general term. Anyone who's like expert is a term for anyone who is um like an academic or like a well-respected person who shares a lot of the biases and misappropriations that like Reddit people share. And it'll be obvious soon what I'm talking about, but like it's just that it's like a general like archetype of a person. It's not really an expert. I'm not like calling out any specific expert here. So why are they both consistently wrong? One, probably the biggest thing that I can call these people out for is that they don't use AI. That is the biggest there's a lot more to it to my argument, but like the biggest thing to this is that they are not using frontier models. Every time I talk to a person, um, and they're like, "Oh no, AI is like dude, it's just predicting the next token. Like it's not really doing reasoning or thinking. Like this shit's like it's like the next crypto or it's the next like internet. It's not. It's gonna change some things. It's gonna be impactful, but it's not gonna be like world revolutionizing or you know industrial revolution type thing." Um, and each time I ask them, "Okay, uh, what was the last model that you used and what did you use it for?" Um, a lot of the times I get answers along the lines of they use initial releases of ChatGPT, like when it first came out in 2022 or 23. Like they used it early on, and they've used like where it's been shoved in their face through free products, like in Google search or like in like integration to like Gmail or something. Like they've used like those kind of, but they've never actually went out and sought frontier level models, which I think is like the biggest main thing. Like the models that kind of exposure um is not what AI is right now. That is like state of the art AI like 2 years ago. And everyone would agree if you based your view on those models, it would be awful. Like if you base your outlook and your, which by the way, is a, basing your outlook on the state of models 2 years ago is also pretty stupid because you should be looking at the rate of improvement of AI. But again, we'll get into those kinds of things later. But fair, if you're basing it off of just those models and their capabilities, it is fair to have pessimistic opinions. But I really, really urge people, and again, a bit more in depth later, but I really urge people to use frontier models. Um, ChatGPT 4.0, a lot of people have actually used 4.0 in ChatGPT, people who are pessimistic. 4.0 is still not the frontier. Like it's the frontier like a year, more than a year ago, or like around a year ago. Um, right now reasoning models are like the new hot thing and they're really smart and they do a lot. They can use tools. I really recommend paying the $20 a month ChatGPT subscription to use O3 and just use it for when you're trying to, let's say, trying to find an item to buy and you want to compare a bunch of sites. O3 is really good with tool use, explaining stuff in charts. It is doing actual reasoning, and even if you don't think it's doing reasoning, it's saving lots of time. It's doing actual like value adding work to me when I'm looking for things to buy, when I want to research like I have like random questions throughout the day. I'm doing at least five O3 queries a day, not forcing myself to, but typically like when I'm doing research or like thinking of things, I I think of something and then I search it up. Uh, and normally, like 3 years ago, I'd search it up on Google. Like I'd go to like let's say I want to look at like this morning I was looking at um GDP inequality figures for India. Because I read an article about India's falsified GDP growth figures. Um, it would have taken me like probably 10 minutes to find all the specific stats that I wanted, like Gini coefficients, income inequality, the rate of Gini coefficient growth, like lots of different economic metrics that I want to know and like see. And O3 found those and more with explanations for each, how they correlate, uh, answered my question really. I asked more questions on top of it based on the metrics that it showed me, and like, oh, like, is this actually resulting in higher quality of life? Is this Gini coefficient increasing a result of their judicial system being bad? Like, I was able to like this is like PhD like this the level of knowledge after you prompt it well and it does a lot of research is PhD level. Um, like it's really really good. I don't want to spend this video glazing AI models. My point is that like the model is really good. Um, and I was gonna talk about this later, but people say that like this annoys me so much. Like people unironically say this not as a meme, which makes it okay. On Reddit and among experts, one of the main things that they say is that all an AI model is doing is predicting the next token. A token is like you can think of it as like a word. It's like it's an AI model's version of like letters. Like we use letters to construct words and sentences and paragraphs. Um, AI models use tokens, and then so like I ate an apple, like the PPLE part of Apple, the ending is one token. So it's probably I ate an apple. It's probably like five, six tokens. Um, people say whenever there's like a cool AI model release, oh, it's not actually reasoning. It's just been trained a lot of data and it's predicting the next token. Which 2 years ago, the old models were doing that. Yes, when we didn't have RL, which is reinforcement learning, or test time compute, which is like reasoning and models thinking, and lots of other algorithmic features, that's what they were doing back then. They are not just doing that anymore. And also, this really pisses me off. Like, even if that only that is true, yes, that they're just predicting the next token and it's not real thinking or reasoning or like they're not doing anything smart, in order to predict the next token, you have to understand all of the tokens that came before. if let's say you know that my name is John, right? And I say, "Hey, I'm 10 years old. My name is blank." What do you think blank is? John. But how do you know that? Because you understood all of the context of my past three sentences. You're not just predicting the next token, you're doing thinking. Like, AI models are doing that process, and there's proof of that. There's an entire field of within AI lab research called mechanistic interpretability. It's a fancy word, but all it really means is studying the inside of LLMs. You study the internal, like it's the equivalent of like neuroscience, of like studying the inside of a brain and like how our synapses connect to each other. Mechanistic interpretability is, or mech interp is the exact same thing. People like they have, and there's software that you can download on your PC and open source models to like see this if you don't believe me. When models are trying to talk about something, they are actively connecting different parts of their LLM brains, all their parameters. Like there might be a parameter that talks that has the words apple, candy, and Darwinism in it, and there's another parameter that has a bunch of other words inside of it. When you ask the model, um, "Hey, do you think that Darwin's theories are true?" It connects so many parts of its brain to and even brain to answer your question. Like there's like those areas light up basically the way that human brains light up, and and there's also like cool interesting things that make it feel like an alien intelligence. For example, when LLMs are lying, uh there's an area where they have lying related topics in their parameters stored that those areas light up, um, but also the areas where they actually try to answer your question. So there's lots of cool things where like, let's say a model is lying to you, but like it's lying, like let's say you're super stressed. I'm like, oh, I have these bills due and I don't know if I'll be able to make my payments. The model might answer, "Oh no, everything will be okay. Let's work it out. Let's talk about this." But the model's area in its brain about lying might be lighting up because it knows that you're not like the model doesn't know if everything's going to be okay. My point is with that is that it's actually reasoning. Like, these things are not human intelligence. They're not sentient in the way that we're sentient, but they're alien intelligences. Like they're non-human intelligences, and they're continuing to get better. Um, one of the there's a point that crossed my mind while I was talking that I want to bring up. Let me try and remember it. Uh, 1 second. Oh, I remembered. Okay, so one big issue among experts um is that basically when experts are research like let's say this is like academics specifically when academics are trying to research AI and writing papers on AI and like, oh, AI actually isn't that good at X thing, or and there's like they release papers on it. One of the big issues is that for some reason these academics are using models that are like 2 years old. Like a few months ago, there was some paper that got pretty popular on like news articles and there were headlines about it, about how LLMs are like outperformed by like an 8 year old on like a on like the bar exam, or like it wasn't actually that, but like it was something like that where like they were calling LLM stupid and like really bad. And it was the thing that like LLMs are obvious. Like if I tested what they were doing in that research paper myself on like O1 or like any kind of like frontier model at that time a few months ago, it would have obliterated whatever they were talking about. But they were using the original GPT-4 release from the start of 2023 from their paper. Like this is the kind of thing I talk about where like because a lot of experts are not actively in the field and it's a quickly advancing field where The frontier is always like changing every few weeks. Um, it's hard to tell. Uh, Coders actually know, I'm not going to generalize. There are a good amount of coders that know the frontier really, really well because they're integrating AI models into how they code and develop. And if you ask those guys, AI is absurdly useful. I code. I'm not like a coder by profession, but I code a lot and use models a lot. For those who are still skeptical, like, oh, I haven't proven that they're actually able to, yes, they might be able to research some stuff and help me find answers to questions, like as if it's a better Google, but they're not actually like doing value creating work. Um, I'll tell you, okay, there is a IDE, like in a development environment called Cursor, Cursor. If you download it, you'll get a free trial. Um, and there's a thing called agent mode on it. And if you go onto agent mode, and click and select any of the models that I suggest, right, I don't want to date this video, but right now it's Claude 4 Sonnet, Claude 4 Opus, Gemini 2.5 Pro. Those are like the best coding models. O3 is decent. It's not even Frontier at that. 2.5 Pro and Claude 4 are way better. Um, if you select those and select agent mode and then type in just some coding project that you want to make, or if you are a developer and you open some like open like a open one of your GitHub repos and request like a feature change, like, oh, um, add a button that does this, or add a page to my website that talks about books that I like, and make it formatted so that I can add in all my books, or create a game about starting a company and hiring employees. Like, and it'll code out the entire code base for you. It is error prone, and you still need to kind of know how to code to kind of prompt. For the bigger the request and the longer the time, like if it's like a thing that'll take like an hour and like lots of work, you need to handhold it, obviously. Um, no, obvious. Well, yeah, you need to handhold it and like kind of there will be some bugs that you probably have to fix through. Um, but if it's like if it's a small feature request within an existing code base, and you add the context of the entire code base, it'll like one shot, like first try a feature request. Like if you have a website and you want to add something in the website or you want to change like the front end or how it looks, it'll do that in first try. And the point isn't to actually, I'm not bringing this up to show off these capabilities. My actual point is that these capabilities did not exist 6 months ago, um, or at least not to this extent. Like the horizons then were even smaller, where even small feature requests would be kind of buggy, and it would struggle with like terminal commands and using tools. 6 months later, these are non-issues, um, and this trend is actually accelerating in terms of how good the models are at tool use and being agentic over longer uh, periods of time for tasks. Um, my point of this is to outline that Reddit people who think that these capabilities are just spawned in by predicting the next token, or that experts, measuring that, oh, this, like they that this like a lot of experts don't even know these capabilities exist, because they are kind of willfully ignorant of the industry. There are lots of um, economists that look at Tyler Cohen, for example. He is an economist that keeps very up to date with the frontier of AI models, and he's also pessimistic. He's not aligned with the SF view that like it's going to change the world in like less than 5 years. AI. He thinks that it'll take decades, but he thinks the current capabilities are amazing and that it is going to get fast and be able to create value, creating work and displace a lot of jobs. He just differs on how he thinks that companies will be slow to adopt, and like technology historically has been slow to integrate into society, which is a totally fair argument. I have counters to that, but that's a fair argument. I think his comes from sensible takes. His is a sensible take that I respect because he doesn't have the biases that Reddit and expert people have, where they are ignorant to the current frontier, are not up to date on research in the current models, and then they try and come up with takes, which I really don't like. I am happy with people with Tyler Cohen, who I disagree with fundamentally on their outlook on AI, but they are at least coming from a place where they know they have a good baseline knowledge. Um, there are also pessimists who think that we've hit a wall or that AI models haven't been improving. Firstly, they haven't been improving. People kind of think that like so when ChatGPT first came out, it ran on ChatGPT 3.5. Or uh, yeah, it ran on 3.5. 3.5 was a bad model. Like you would not want to use that model today for like anything. Um, then a bit later, I think it was at the start of 2023. I think it was like February, eh, March. It was in the first, yeah, beginning of 2023. ChatGPT 4 came out. Now, 4 is a very, like, 4 was a good model. 4 started, like, the entire AI bubble, basically. And, like, arms race to, like, we have to fund AI and, like, get ahead, and, like, everyone's getting in on it. Because 4 proved that, okay, this thing can actually do, like, difficult STEM tasks. You can, it's scalable economically. Like, you can give it to people and, like, and, like, generate revenue off of it. Um, and, uh, thing is, and since ChatGPT 4, like the big thing there was just the jump, like the rapid improvement from 3.5 to 4. Like the abilities were crazy, and we haven't really gotten that level of a jump yet. Like like there hasn't been, the current frontier, and then there hasn't been a model release that's been that big of a jump, like a step function jump yet. But capabilities have improved more than that. Like the capability difference between 3.5 and 4 is vast. But if you compare GPT-4 to um, like Gemini 2.5 Pro with a million context and reasoning and tool use, it is that difference. The reason people aren't as hyped about it is because one, actually Gemini models are marketed terribly. Um, uh, Second is that our improvements now are incremental because there's so many labs competing, open source versus closed source. Like the entire competitive landscape is very different. Um, all of our improvements have been incremental. Like every couple weeks we get a new model. Every month there's a new state of the art model, and we've been on that for like the past 2 years where we're getting slowly and slowly better. Um, and like so our capabilities, the point is that we're still progressing very fast. One of the reasons people aren't aware is that um the first thing that AI labs are trying to tackle is coding, um in like software engineering, for a variety of reasons. One of the big ones is that they want to be able to automate their own research on AI models. Like if they can get models extremely good at coding, uh they'll be able to research, like they'll be able to release AI models to research, do AI research and AI related coding stuff by themselves, and it speeds up the rate at which um, AI research is done. And this is already kind of like starting already with codecs and similar agent, like remember the cursor agent thing that I talked about, like those kinds of things are already kind of helping speed up developers. Um, and also because a lot of the people working on AI in research labs are also coders, so they can easily verify like the output and it's easy to train. Um, but there is no reason that what what they're doing for coding can't be done for other fields. The only reason is that resources are constrained for AI um, for AI research. Like if you're gonna commit to something like improving software engineering and coding, you want to commit as many resources as possible to get it as good as possible first. You can't half-ass it and say, okay, this team work on AI coding, this team work on automating janitor work with robotics, this team work on automating a way Excel spreadsheet work. You basically have to commit your resources and get it really good at one thing, and then take all your learnings about RL and test time compute, which I've done explanations of those terms in my past things. So they're basically RL and compute are our way to AGI. There's other things, but like they are our way to AGI. Um, and well, I should add a thing about the, hold on, that's got an idea. I should talk about the economics. And, okay, uh, should I should bring water with me when I do these. I don't know why I don't bring water. I have like these like little chocolate cookies, but okay. Hard part about the break is that because I'm going off of just my head and I just have like quite I have like questions in front of me, I lose my train of thought. I'm not even like going off the questions anymore. I'm just like yapping. I ended on talking about right. So right now, so a lot of the reason people don't know about the frontier is because all of the models are optimized for coding. So only developers and people that already would have supported AI, which is developers, and like coders and like people who are in like the SF or like AI lab sphere, they're the ones who benefit the most from the current frontier capabilities, and not the everyday person. Like everyday person isn't trying to create like the back ends or whatever in like in through like agentic like cursor request. Um, and but my point is that for those who are pessimistic on the outlook of AI development itself, um, one there's zero evidence so far that the coding improvements that we've seen and have trained for one that they okay there's two paths. One, we get the coding abilities really, really, really good, and it just turns out that those abilities generalize to other areas. Like if we get a model, let's say right now models are like probably around like an intern or junior software engineer level, maybe worse. But like around there, depending on which model. Let's say it gets to a senior engineer, like it can work for long periods of time without any intervention. Let's say it gets to that level, those abilities might generalize to other domains outside of software engineering. Like there's good arguments for like it could generalize to Excel spreadsheet work, with formulas and tool use and all that kinds of things, and lots of other computer use areas. Um, the other like even if that fails, uh, we like right now coding abilities are being trained through something called reinforcement learning, where you basically feed it a bunch of coding data or like how to code, and then you set an algorithm that rewards the model for giving good answers to coding questions and coding problems and tool use and that kind of thing. Um, it's more advanced than that. There's people who also are way more knowledgeable about it than me. But basically, it's just rewarding the model for good answers and good behavior that you want. This is also one of the reasons that's being trained for coding is because um, coders can like know good code and can figure out good algorithms for rewarding good code output for models best. Um, this process, there's no reason this RL process can't be like if the generalization thing doesn't work, where getting really good at one thing generalizes to other areas, which if that doesn't work, we can just RL individual abilities into the models, or even fine tune, which is cheaper and easier. But we can RL those abilities. Like if we want to get really good at spreadsheets, we can just teach it. Okay, here's a bunch of data on spreadsheets. You need to use these tools and these formulas and these are the kinds of requests you'll be getting. Here's an algorithm that rewards you for good answers and just run it and train it like that. This this process could be done for everything with even robotics and like serving coffees. Like and the financial incentives for this to occur are very high because labor is like services make up 60% of the world's economy. So even if you have to manually go through RLing every single type of job, it'll still eventually get done. It'll slow down the acceleration timelines, but it'll get done if generalization doesn't prove to be true. Um, the other thing that kind of we've known that makes models smarter is something called test time compute. This is the if you've used frontier models, this is when models are thinking basically. Like if you use O3 or 2.5 Pro or thinking on Claude models, um, or DeepSeek's R1, um, any R1 version, this is all test time compute where you basically give the model um, GPU resources to think, and if you give it more the simplest way I can explain is more GPU resources, it can think more. It doesn't scale linearly. Like let's say I give the I give the model 10 GPU points to use test to like think and use test time compute level related stuff. It might it might output 10 level intelligence on some task. Then let's say I give it 100 GPU points instead of 10. Now it might the intelligence points won't go to 100 from 10 as well, but they might go to 20. And now if I increase the GPU allocation to 1,000, the it might go from 20 to 40. Um, so it doesn't scale linearly. It might scale logarithmically or some we actually don't know. Um, the point is that it does scale and that like combination of RL with test time compute with better algorithmic performance, better hardware from NVIDIA, better context, better inference technology like what DeepSeek is doing, which is really incredible. Um, then there's lots of things that also I'm not aware of that like only internal people at like labs know like every AI researcher is confident in the path to AGI, and experts are like experts and Reddit people aren't aware of it. And it's annoying because it is like research like true AI research. If you ask any person at a lab, do you think we'll get AGI at some point? Yes, we're like we can be definitively sure because we know how to improve the models. We just have a lot of bottlenecks. We have bottlenecks on the amount of compute that we have in terms of like the amount of GPUs that we have. We have bottlenecks on the amount of people in the industry because you have to be pretty smart to work with this stuff. It's learnable, but like there's like the more we still need like the industry still needs more people. Um, there is a bottleneck on um, time because it takes lots of time to train all the models. Uh, and it's not that like every research idea that people at these labs are proposing is true. It's that um, it takes time to try out a bunch of different ideas, to try out different algorithms, and find out which ones work. But we know the general direction in the research in the training techniques that we want to use to get to AGI. It is proven, and a lot of experts and Reddit people think that like, oh, we don't actually like you. You're saying that without even knowing the current frontier. How can you possibly know the trajectory of the future frontier? For the past 5 years, there's been you can extend there, but for the past 5 years, there's been massive gains every single year. It would be illogical and dumb to think that these AI capability trends would randomly just stop and like reverse or like stop and like freeze. That's unlikely. Even if they slow down drastically, they're still going to be improving rapidly because the pace before improvement was extremely fast. So even if it slows down a lot, it'll still be improving. Um, I will move on to okay. there are this isn't I'm not trying to dismiss all criticisms of AI in the AI industry. I think there are lots of fair criticisms and things that I'm vocal about. Um, One of the major things is uh people criticizing on like things like, a lot of the training done for AI models, you know, they take artwork without consent from creators. They just scrape it off the internet. Books being stolen and fed to the model. I think there needs to be better regulation around those kinds of things. But I don't like people who um like use those kinds of points to basically think that to say that like we should stop AI development. I think AI labs should be compensating well, or at least crediting media sources um well, but like does if they're not, or if they're hallucinating, or if they're making mistakes, don't advocate for the dissolution of AI or AI development. Um, like this is like a very obvious EV thing where the benefits outweigh the gains. If AI is implemented properly, if the economic gains are distributed well, like everyday people, like this is like more than industrial revolution level um uh like it beats the industrial revolution impact to society. Like it could be like the next society altering thing to pause development over small things rather than just trying to uh, force their wealthy like they can afford it with enough advocacy. And um, there are similar talking points like that people use to kind of even say that AI is bad because it's just copied text. They are actually reasoning, and they're like intelligent alien brains. Um, One of the major biases that Reddit and expert people have, but more Reddit actually, this one, is just that they hate kind of big tech and SF kind of uh, ideologies around this kind of stuff. Like, they've been, and it's justified actually. They've been let down with things like crypto or Internet of Things, or like the stock market crash of like in the past, or like the internet bubble crash. Um, like overvalued tech IPOs, people overhyping like simple technologies, like Uber or something was called to be like world changing like 10 years ago. Like those kinds of things make people pessimistic when the reality turns out that like, oh, they didn't change that much. One thing that I won't elaborate too much on is that like I'm pretty adamant in the view that basically all technological development for the past 50 years has been leading up to AI. Like it's all been fed into AI, and like AI becomes the best in all of those domains. I talked about a lot in my last video, so you can go back if you want to check that. Um, People are not wrong in that view, but it's just upsetting that like if you really look into it well, this is actually the one time that the SF bro tech hype is actually real. And if you don't believe me, you can research it yourself. Um, this is the one time that it's real so far, and how can I word this best? Like the criticism, like the base for your pessimism is fair based on the past, but don't let it give you an unfair bias or view over AI LLMs. Like a lot of like in a way, it's humanity's like baby. Like it is, we fed all of our work into it, and it's an alien intelligence that so far has been trained to help us. Um, of course, there are legitimate safety issues and safety concerns, and a lot of doomerism. Like this is actually a field I respect. AI doomers, which basically say that AI is going to take over the world. AI doomers are very well informed on AI, and they have a very strong basis. Um, like it's similar to what I was talking about Tyler Cohen earlier, where they have takes I disagree with, but I think it holds a lot of validity. I think AI safety right now undervalued in a lot as like a principle in a lot of AI orgs, except for maybe like an Anthropic or something. And I guess open source, I guess like DeepSeek or something, maybe too. Um, but like, so AI doomers, I'm actually like you guys can have it, or like at least the ones that are basing their doomerist perspectives uh on up to date on like a good model of AI technology. And one of the another major criticism is kind of that AI is a bubble, at least like the economics around it. It is true that no AI company is profitable, but it's kind of, but like, okay, OpenAI could be actually extremely profitable right now if they wanted to. If you look at actually a breakdown of their expenses and revenue, um, they're reinvesting everything they have um, into AI research and further scaling of like everything. Scaling of inference, like serving AI models, scaling of research, scaling of hiring, everything. One, because they know the trajectory and the path, and that this is like going to be the next big thing for for society. Um, so like it makes like they made that bet on upon their founding. So like they're just continuing the bet they've always made. Um, and every other lab is doing the same. Um, and also uh like okay, oh yeah, they could be super profitable if they wanted to, like if they just cut their research expenses, which is like most of their expenses and their training expenses, and just focus on maintaining what they currently have. Like let's say all competitors stopped investing, like let's say they just focus on serving ChatGPT, like inference for ChatGPT, and whatever the current offering and current subscription count is. um they'd be super profitable. Serving inference, like serving AI, is very profitable. Um, but like they're just spending so much on scaling that it makes them unprofitable. That's why like this bubble has lasted very long. Like it's multi-year and it hasn't really slowed too much yet. Um, it's slowing a little bit right now, but we'll see how that turns out within like a year or so when we have like agentic software engineers. Uh, we'll see how much like value, how much like I don't think the bubble's gonna pop is my outlook, but um, point is that like AI companies could be profitable, but they're pouring everything they have into research and improving models, just because of the outlook of AI. And um, choc chocolate break 1 sec. I need to collect my thoughts. Mm, okay. Um, there is a lot of grifting and like there are a lot of smaller startups that are like more scammy, that kind of just are what in SF people call LLM wrappers, where they just take the API that OpenAI gives for their models and creates like a product around it that doesn't add too much value. A lot of those kinds of companies will die out. That's a fair criticism. But there are a lot of wrappers that do create a lot of value. Cursor is arguably a wrapper, but they have great metrics. We'll see how it turns out long term though. I think it'll actually turn out somewhat well for them. Um, I think there are more points I want to make. For one, it's late. I don't know why I only record this. It's 3 a.m. Um, I don't know why I always record these so late. It's like I only get motivation to actually do these at night. Um, okay, let's say ideally, I was done like ideally, let's say a pessimist came into this video, and hopefully what I've said so far turns you around. There are okay. I want to end on this. I want to end my middle segment on this. There are lots of fair criticisms, but a lot of them are misgrounded. There are genuine fair criticisms, and I also have many criticisms of AI and the AI industry myself. I talked a lot about them in my last video towards the end. Um, but the main ground on like AI is not being smart and AI progress not continuing and it all being a scam, that part is very untrue. And you should be optimistic and hopeful that if we implement AI technology right, humanity will enter a great, like a very good era. Um, you should hope for that. Like it is a good outcome for lots of people. Um, if you want to change where you're getting your information from, and if you think you were pessimistic originally because your sources were incorrect, um, you should really look into following a lot of people who are like in and around AI labs. Jeff Dean, Noam Shazir, even Sam Altman, although he's not really technical, so you won't be learning that kind of stuff. But um, OpenAI releases lots of papers, Anthropic releases lots of papers, Google DeepMind does. Um, you can follow DeepSeek or Quen. One of the best ways I recommend is just like use the models like for fun. Like just like talk to them. If you don't, you can like role play with them for fun. You can use them for research or coding questions. Like just try to use the frontier models. I don't have to force myself. I just do it out of habit because it's really helpful to me. That's why I'm very informed about just the current state of models. Um, uh, Another thing is this is more related to my last video, I guess. I think a lot of people have weak world models in that, like, let's say a brand new model comes out that's really good at, I don't know, that's even better at coding than whatever the frontier is right now. People take that information differently. Like, I am well versed in a lot of areas that are tangential to AI development, like economics or geopolitics or just the general tech scene and like, like similar areas like that. So I have a decent world model for how if I get new information like that, I know what it'll impact, who will make use of it first, like what are there going to be the financial repercussions short term, how fast will this product blow up, like those kinds of things. If like a new like, but if you're getting your source from someone with a weak world model, if you have a weak world model yourself, try to develop all those areas at once because that'll help you a lot. Like try to be like at least like a little bit informed on economics, a little bit informed on the stock market, or a bit informed on geopolitics, namely just China and the USA and a bit of Europe. Um, those kinds of things. Uh, I really hope like I'm doing this video out of like I want people to be better and be more knowledgeable, and also because I do get genuinely annoyed when I see a lot of the stupid shit that I read. And because I really try to keep an open mind because I do like my criticisms are because I have an open mind. I'm optimistic on AI. Um, but I have criticisms because I force myself to read like a lot of the takes that are like, oh, AI is not going to do. I watched a 15-minute video uh, from some MIT Sloan thing about some professor that was like criticizing AI, and I literally wanted to stop watching 5 minutes in, and it was only 15 minutes, but I forced myself to watch it all the way through, so that like I could, in case he said anything valid or anything that I point that like I haven't really considered before, I could like add it to my world model and like try and like think around it. He didn't say anything substantial. It said a lot of like similar rhetoric and bias-based views that I've seen, but it's like I hope you keep that mindset too of trying to be open-minded in case somehow, yeah, somehow like something happens in the future with AI development, you want to be able to understand it well. Um, there is, of course, a lot of the reason it's hard to trust what OpenAI hypes up is because they have financial incentive to hype up every release and say it's world changing. So it's also useful, like that's why it's useful to stay in touch with like all of the competitors and like the entire again, you'll get a sense by just using the models. If you use the models, you'll just know like, oh, this one's an improvement, this one's not an improvement. Like I can tell that O3 and O1 are big improvements from ChatGPT or GPT 4.0. And I can just tell by just using them, and I can tell like what are the use cases now with our new frontier versus old. By the way, I don't want O3 isn't actually even frontier. O3 is like frontier level, but like Opus 4 and 2.5 Pro are probably more frontier than that. Um, yeah, we can end it there. I hope you learned something and got something out of this video. Yeah, best of luck with that review.